Running Sentences presents a short bonus story. A Goblin Doctor's Morality. This story, while based on historical events, is heavily fictionalized. It is in no way meant to resemble the events as they actually occurred. Copyright 2022, Michael Hunnery. All rights reserved. A goblin tells a story it had heard once about a goblin doctor who helped someone it shouldn't have.
Oh, there you are. I've been looking all over the place the last few days, going from town to town, searching for you all around. I know you're a collector of odd things and sometimes stories, and I came across one of those. It is a crazy tale, one that makes you question goblins and all you know about them. We, as goblins, have never questioned ourselves and what we are, nor should we. Like the fact that there has always been a fight and war between goblins and humans. We must fight for dominance against one another to see who should rule the land, yet there are some who threaten that balance. Those that help those slimy creatures and nurse them back to health, how dare they cross that line? This story took place reportedly not that long ago, which makes matters even worse. We have history on our side, and we know what humans will do to us if they catch us. Death. We do lots of things to get revenge for that first killing that they did to us, to even the score, but still they kill us even more. How could Dr. Hoop do something so against our nature? I should tell you what it is, shouldn't I? The problem is the whole thing makes my goblin blood want to burst out of me and go strangle him. It wants to march downtown to the doctor's new office and strangle him for doing what he has done, but I can't. It was 4 years ago, this story starts, near the Victor border, the ways away up. You know the spot where the land meets lakes and then more land stretches out before one. Everyone says this is the border along this invisible line on the ground, though where it is and isn't becomes quite hard to figure out because nobody can see it. No one pays a lick of attention to it, though since they can't see it, and, they just sort of go across it going, oh, hello. And humans and goblins, the only place where we get along. We regularly come across one another and up there and ignore each other, 'cause it does no good to kill up in the wild wilderness where trapping and hunting for food is all we have. It makes no sense to kill one up there. You're not going to achieve anything. You're not going to get revenge on humans. You have to do it when they're in a collection of people. That proves the point. Anyway, this Dr. Hoop was up there working all with our little military to keep the border safe for everyone. One day, while away from the fort in a little home he had built for himself away from everything, a human staggered up to the door and began banging on it. Hoop answered it, and in humbled this human creature, gasping and dying while holding its stomach from a wound. With a great amount of effort and doing his best, because he is a doctor, Hoop managed to get the human onto a nearby bed and checked him over. His diagnosis was that the wound would kill this human in a short amount of time. So he settled him in, told him exactly that, and then asked the name of the man so that he could carve out a little wooden grave for him. William was the given name as they settled in and waited for the inevitable to come. But some magic must have spelled over this human, for he lived that night, and then the next night. A week had gone by with the human under the care of Hoop, who was stunned. The human was surviving and living and breathing. The doctor had never seen such a recovery, and things appeared to be healing well. Well, except for one terrible thing. The wound in the stomach area of this human, it was healing, but not quite. You see, he had been struck by a crossbow bolt in a self-inflicted wound. Or so this William claimed. The bolt went deep and gone all the way to this human's stomach, jabbing deep into it. Hoop managed to get it all out with no ill effects and nothing remaining in the human. But the wound, weirdly, and maybe this is a human thing, or maybe it isn't, I don't know humans. But the wound remained, it stayed, it was still there, you could poke a goblin finger in, and it would get almost all the way into the stomach area. A stick would be a better fit, but you could get down there if you really wanted to. And the thing is, the wound just sort of stayed that way. This human, William, was soon able to move about roughly alive and well, except for that little part of him in his stomach. Dr. Hoop helped this human and kept him alive, which is against every credo the goblins have ever taken. It should have been death, but the doctor made a bargain. If he could run experiments on this hole in the human's stomach, and this human would stay out of sight, then William would get to stay alive. How could a goblin agree to that? For some reason, though, the human agreed, and they began experimenting on this hole. Dr. Hoop would tie pieces of food to string and then bloop it down into the hole. Into the hole it went. I want to believe at first the human was too weak to put up much of a fight, since the wound would make doing things to them against their wishes rather easy. It probably spanned from there, but why both parties kept going when this William was healthy and it was also wrong to do, I will never know. The doctor, though, began writing all the information down, doing these experiments, claiming that learning this would help us understand humans. I have no idea why, because all he learned about was that humans have acid in their stomach, which, if it explodes on you, is dangerous, but don't get near explodey, so don't get near explodey humans, I guess. That's the only thing I can learn from this mess of a mess. After a while, though, this William was healed enough to do things all on his own. But he didn't leave. No. Hoop said it was because the wound, while closed and opened, prevented him from going back to being a hunter-trapper type of person. So the doctor hired him to do, of all things to do, a goblin and a human working together. It's like cats and dogs getting along. It doesn't work, nor should it. We are mortal enemies. Yes, those two made it work, with Dr. Hoop keeping the human alive and healthy by looking over him, and the human did work for him. In exchange, the doc got data in which he then brought to the Goblin King. That is where this whole thing should have fallen apart. What's the Goblin King going to do with data? But no, our great leader, the King of the Goblins, looked over this information and said, "Good." He wanted to use this information, but how, I could only guess. Probably kidnapping humans, cutting them open and removing the acid in their stomachs, and then launching the acid or the stomachs at humans with explosives. Boom! The whole thing would go up in a terrible spill of things. That would be a brilliant plan. But no. But that isn't what's going to happen, because that makes too much sense, doesn't it? No, the doctor got his work published and talked about. The king even sent it over to the humans as a peace offering to help one another in these tough times ahead. It was taken up by both sides, mortal enemies, and all of a sudden we were working together. All of this research and science testing, much of it with humans probably tied down and forced to submit, this is what it led to. We found out that humans can eat through holes in their stomach and that they produce acid, a dangerous substance that no creature should have in them or out of them. Yes, we make acid in us as well, but we don't do anything with it. The humans do stuff with it. Humans use it to digest things. How awful is that? Not that it matters, since we're working together now. Yet, working together. The words make me want to puke. Oh, and before you go run off to deal with these new humans coming to our town, there is one last thing to know. The doc died the other night. Not from humans, though. It would serve him right if it was. No, went out to tend to a patient on a cold night the other day. Slipped on some ice outside his home and boom, cracked his head. He lay there dying, but no one knew. Froze to death and bled out on the sidewalk. Family wasn't happy when they opened the door the next morning. Serves him right, though. Should never mess with humans. And now look what we might have to deal with. We were better off without them, yet this mess is here. All right, well, I said my bit. Go be a liaison for our town and be ready to not trust them or any Dr. Goblins in the future, eh? They throw everything out of balance in whack. Keep your eye out and be ready to cut their throats. Just stay away from their belly, though. No need to inflict any damage on yourself.
The end of a goblin doctor's morality. Thank you for listening.